Hey, welcome to Mineral Talks Live, the weekly live webinar that brings you in-depth and in-person interviews with the mineral people from around the world. Mineral Talks Live is brought to you by a joint effort among the Mineralogical and Geological Museum at Harvard University, the Society of Mineral Museum Professionals, and Blue Cap Productions. Tune in every Wednesday and stay connected to your mineral world. Now, broadcasting live from beautiful Honolulu, Hawaii, the land of aloha, ukuleles, and shakas, this is Mineral Talks Live. Hello and welcome to another episode of Mineral Talks Live, the weekly mineral talk show broadcasting you live every Wednesday. I'm Brian Sabota, president of Blue Cap Productions, and we have a great show for you today. For those of you who are tuning into our program for the first time, Mineral Talks Live is a weekly webinar put on by myself representing Blue Cap Productions, Dr. Raquel Alonso Perez representing the Mineralogical and Geological Museum at Harvard University, and Dr. Eloise Gaillou representing the Society of Mineral Museum Professionals, also known as the SMMP. Now, we try to make our programs as interactive as possible for you, so let me quickly describe how you can participate in every show. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a series of buttons. There's one button labeled Chat, another labeled Q&A. The chat feature allows you to type messages to everyone watching and participating in the show. When you first sign on, go ahead and fire off a chat message, introducing yourself and telling us where you're tuning in from. Now, while our guest and myself, we have access to those chats, we generally don't look at that because we're focused on our conversation. However, both Raquel and Eloise will be very active in those chats, so look to their comments along with everyone else's. At times, either Raquel or Eloise may interject during the interview with questions that you're asking so we can get an immediate answer from our guest while they're still on the topic. Today, we may tune that back just a little bit because some of the complications that we're doing on today's show, where we're actually going to be broadcasting from two places. Now, the second way to interact with us is the Q&A function. This allows you to submit general questions that we'll try to answer at the end of the interview. Again, it's going to be a little bit different today. We have Jack Halpern's daughter, Jean, who's actually going to be working almost as our interpreter because the speaker on the phone that they're using to interview, to film Jack, it's not really loud enough for him to hear it. So anything that I ask, Jean is then going to ask directly to Jack. So there's going to be a little bit of delay, which may make questions a little bit problematic. So just bear with us and we'll try to do the best that we can. So now on to the show. Now, today's guest is a legend in his own time in so many ways. Beyond just the beauty and the breadth of his personal mineral collection, this man lights up a room with his presence. At mineral shows, there's always a crowd of people around him, and he always has the most incredible smile on his face. When you stop to talk with him, he looks so deeply into your eyes that you feel your soul being touched. And the way that he speaks to you, the words he uses, are indicative of a time that one can truly call the golden age. So it's my great honor and privilege to introduce today's guest, my dear and true friend, Jack Halpern. Jack, how are you today?
I'm A1, feeling perfect. Thank you for asking.
Oh, it's wonderful to see you. You look so healthy and so fantastic right now. Well, now, Jack, you recently celebrated your 100th birthday, and I think a lot of people are just amazed. How do you feel?
Same as I felt at age 25.
Well, you certainly act that way. Now, Jack, there's so much that people want to know about you. So let me start with your mineral collecting. Can you tell us about your first exposure to minerals back when you were 51 at the California Academy of Science and how that affected you?
Yes, I was in an office, and on the desk in that office, I saw three, what we call rocks, about the size of walnuts each one, except as they had geometric shapes. They had distinctive shapes, and that intrigued me. And so I said to the fellow who was standing with me, "What are these?" And he answered, "They're called mineral crystals, and they form underground without any assist from man. They occur in nature. I was amazed at that these things with distinctive geometric shapes could be parts of nature. Nature was pretty foreign to me at that time. And that's how it started.
And who was that man?
The man I was speaking to was the curator of minerals at the Academy of Sciences. So he was a man who knew whereof he spoke. He mentioned his friend, Bill Sanborn, who became a very, very close friend of mine, a fellow much younger than I, maybe 30, 40 years younger than I, but we hit it off together and became closest friends and remained so during his entire lifetime.
Well, it sounds like Bill was a true mentor to you, and I also know that mentoring is very important to you. Can you tell me about how you paid that forward with the children at the St. Gabriel's School in San Francisco?
Bill,
Yes, part of my background is that the youngsters from St. Gabriel's School, a Catholic school in San Francisco, would come every year. About, seems to be about a dozen or 15 of them would come under supervision to my home to see the display of mineral crystals, which at that time was about the only place I know about in San Francisco where you could see a display of the mineral crystal world. And the kids' introduction to the study of geology, my collection would be a part of that study. So they could come every year to my home and see the crystals. And I would give each kid a crystal with a label as to what it was and where it came from to take home with him so that he would have something in hand.
I think that's absolutely
to know about the world of mineral crystals.
Absolutely. That's absolutely wonderful, Jack. I mean, your generosity is so apparent, and certainly to pay it forward is
you're
important.
so generous. That's a good thing.
Now, Jack, in your collection, you have mineral specimens that cost thousands of dollars right next to pieces that cost a couple $100. What is your criteria for collecting minerals?
I'm not a man educated in the science world. And so beauty, B-E-A-U-T-Y, beauty has formed a principal part in my life and certainly in my collecting experience. So where I find beauty in a mineral specimen, and if I can afford to acquire it, I do so, to have that beauty close at hand to this force within me that responds to beauty.
Absolutely wonderful. So I think it's unique in this world that your number one motivation for collecting and acquiring specimens is beauty, and the cost and the rarity becomes really kind of a second and third place criteria. You have such incredible wisdom for people. I know that you have a philosophy of 3 ingredients to a good life. Can you share that philosophy with us?
These are things that are not just words, but they're forces with which you can bring to bear to make your life more meaningful, more pleasant to you and to the people around you. To organize your life so that you always have, 1, something to do, something to occupy your mind, something to do. And 2, to have someone or some things to love, to have your heart go out to a person or persons or to things in the world. And 3, to organize your life so that you always have something to look forward to, something to anticipate. These things won't happen automatically. You have to engineer them into your life. The last one of which was to have something to which to look forward, something into the future that will become part of the present.
I love it. Well, I'm going to do my part and let you know that one thing that you can look forward to from me is I'm going to send you some more of that chocolate that's made here in Hawaii that I've sent you in the past. So I know you have a passion for chocolate. So keep your eye open for that gift that's coming from me and my wife.
That's beautiful.
You can say thank you.
Yeah, chocolate is one of the things that makes my life worth living. It's that significant to me. I'd be a poorer man in my mind if it were not for chocolate in my mouth.
Well, it is my absolute pleasure to send you gifts like that because I know that you appreciate it. And also, you are one of the few people that you do these kind of things. These are handwritten notes from Jack that he sends back whenever I write to him or send him something. And
He's showing
my
them
wife
out
and I
your
have such a
envelope
thrill in
for your
opening
thank
these
you
and reading them together.
and
Now, Jack, my understanding is that the first major mineral specimen you ever acquired was a Kongsberg Silver that you purchased from another man who's been very special in my life. This man also happened to be my father's best friend from the time they were teenagers to their deaths. I speak, of course, of Peter Bancroft. Can you tell us about the Kongsberg piece and how you got that from Uncle Pete?
Because of my interest in minerals, somebody, I don't remember who it was, took me to the home of Pete Bancroft. And on the shelf there, I saw a mineral specimen that delighted me, excited me, lifted me up by its shape, by its color, but mostly by its form. And later I learned that it was a specimen of wire silver, natural, that had come from Kongsberg,
Norway.
Norway. Kongsberg, a locality in Norway.
Hmm.
Kongsberg meaning King's Mountain, which is where it had been found. And I admired it. Its form was so beautiful and its luster so great that it drew me toward it. And so I wanted to acquire it. And I asked, how much would it cost me to acquire that specimen? And Pete answered, he thought $500 would be its market value at that time. And so I said, yes, I'll be glad to provide that amount of money in exchange for this little mineral specimen. And that came to pass. That's exactly what happened.
Wonderful. Let's cut back over to Paul Geffner, who's sitting in Jack's house right now, and he can share with us that Kongsberg Silver that Jack was just talking about. Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Good. Nice to see you, Brian. Jack,
Good to see you.
hello. And here's the Kongsberg Silver. That was one of the original specimens that Jack purchased a long time ago.
Worth a little bit more than $500 these days.
I'd say it was a good investment. And I believe it was on the cover of Rock and Gem sometime back in the Middle Ages.
Which for us was 1970s, late 70s or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing that.
Okay.
All right, let's go back to Jack for a second. Hey, Jack, we're about to head back over with Paul and take a look at your mineral room there. But before we go down there, I'd like you to answer a question, and maybe we'll see it in the tour. What's your favorite specimen?
In answer to the question, what is my favorite specimen? My answer is the one I'm looking at any particular moment. It's my favorite. Right now in my hand is a specimen of pyrite,
Oh,
very
wow.
colorful mineral, pyrite, sometimes called fool's gold
A present from Paul.
because it looks like gold, but it isn't.
And it's a present from Paul.
Yeah, and this was a gift from my friend Paul Geffner, who became my closest male friend and a guy whom I loved and who had an equal feeling towards me. And so he gave me this specimen of pyrite, which has crystals of distinctive geometric shape. And those have not been carved by man, but rather by nature. It was a wonderful carver, as you could see.
Absolutely. Nothing made by man can match the beauty of something made by nature. Excuse me. So I think that's a perfect segue. Let's go back to your house, and we'll talk with Paul, and maybe we can take a look at some minerals.
Okay, am I on now, Brian?
You're on, Paul.
Well, I'd like to welcome everyone to Jack's house, which probably, other than the Smithsonian, is the most visited mineral collection in the country. Okay, and Jack was famous for his hospitality, and I thought the best way to start this program would be to start in his living room where people gathered. Jack would pour them a glass of Grand Marnier, offer them some nuts, and of course, his favorite thing, chocolate. So I'm going to start. My partner, Tim, is doing the filming here, and we're going to make a toast to Jack. Can you pick up your cup here? So Jack, for all your kindness and generosity, and for how you've improved so many people's lives in the mineral community and everywhere else, this is to you. We all love you.
And from Hawaii, we raise a glass also to you, Jack. L'chaim, we love you, brother.
Yeah. Okay, so
Toast to
we're
you.
going to abbreviate this portion. I mean, normally we would stay here for an hour and just talk, but obviously we want to go see minerals. So after the whole ritual of chocolate and liqueurs was over, Jack would invite people to go down to the mineral room. And in order to get there, you have to go down the Winchester Steps of Mystery here, which we're about to do. So this is somewhat of a treacherous staircase. Fortunately, there hasn't been any accidents, so Jack maintains ownership of his collection. And then what would happen is you'd have to stop on this landing right here. I'm sure everybody's with me. And you'd have to wait till Jack turned on all the lights. So you'd be here waiting in anticipation. And finally, Jack would turn on all the lights to the collection and ask you to come down, which we're going to do now. As you might have guessed, I've already turned on the lights. And I have to say, I personally have probably done this 1,000 times. And if I had to record the primary word when people entered this room, it was wow. Holy cow. Like, I remember the first time I was here, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, this was just an absolute treasure cave, unlike anything I'd ever seen. And like so many people, I was completely blown away and mesmerized by the beauty of this collection.
Absolutely stunning. And I can echo that. First words anyone says going down there. Wow.
Wow. Yeah. So, Brian, do you want me to give an abbreviated tour of the cases? What would you like to do next?
Yeah, I think that would be great. Let's go through maybe case by case for a while. And if there are any spectacular pieces that you want to single out in any particular case, please zoom in on that and talk to us a little bit about it.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll start in the front here. And of course, there's an amazing gold specimen here. That's California gold. I'll try to just point out the highlights. For our great friend Bob Byers, there's a stibnite floating in space here. So that is in his honor, who I'm sure is on this call. When I first met Jack, he was holding in his hands this spectacular Russian beryl that looks like a cityscape. And I always remember he had in his hands when I met him. I met him at the San Francisco Gem and Mineral Show 30 years ago. And the way we met was I was with my friends. Jack always had the primary case in the San Francisco Gem and Mineral Show. I bring my friends to look at, and I explain what they were looking at. And Jack overheard me and came up to me and invited me right there to his house. I mean, that is the key component of who Jack is. Like you were talking about how you have $10 minerals next to $10,000 minerals. Well, that is the way he lives his life. No matter who you are, he treats you the same way with great equanimity. Doesn't matter what your station in life, if you're rich or poor, you're equally valuable to him. And that's the key to understanding Jack and understanding his collection. People come here and say, what's that $10 rock doing next to that spectacular $10,000 rock? It doesn't matter. They're all beautiful to him, and that's the way he is in the world. And it's a great gift to everyone. To continue the story, the next week I came to his home and had the wow experience here. I asked him, I was a field collector primarily at that point, which of these specimens he collected. To which he replied, none, which amazed me. I said, none? He said, why haven't you gone out and had the experience of collecting minerals? And he said, no one ever took me. So the following week I took him field collecting, and from that day on, we became best friends. So that's the story of how we met. All right, so let's go back to the rocks themselves. Let's see what other highlights we have in this case. Well, there's a star rutile embedded in quartz up there, down here. Okay. Down here is a little 3-piece garnet. Actually, it's probably mounted backwards right now.
Hey, Paul, how many pieces are in the collection?
About 3,000. And the thing about it is that right there in the back. Here, we'll move over here. There are about 3,000 pieces, and they're all on display.
Great.
It's sort of in stark contrast, once again, to our great friend Bob Byers, who converted his sauna into a mineral closet, and most of his specimens are in boxes. But Bob has a better memory than Jack and I. For Jack and me, I'm like Jack, I have a poor memory, so it's out of sight, out of mind. So we need to see the specimens to know that they exist. Mm-hmm. Now we'll move over here to the row of tourmalines. And there's some pretty spectacular things here, including the Afghani pink tourmaline. There's a great over here Stewart mine tourmaline, and some beautiful Brazilian tourmalines, especially this one here with which is completely gemmy with the red on the bottom. That was originally in the collection of Steve Smale. All right.
Steve was famous for always collecting pieces that were perfect 360 degrees.
And undamaged. There's another, I think this one was from Steve too, and another gemmy Brazilian one with multiple bands of color. Can you see that one? Are these pictures coming through? Are we okay with it being behind glass for now?
Oh yeah. Looks great. Looks great.
Okay. So let's see. Let's go to. Let's make it easier for you, Tim. All right, so over here are some Hidnites from North Carolina. Another great Kongsberg Silver called the Dragon. That's one of the highlights of his collection right there, the Dragon.
That's a great piece.
I think what many collectors appreciate, if you can go over here, Tim, there's this beautiful Vivianite, very subtle and aesthetic. You see that piece back there?
That's the one that flares up in the back of the case there. That's the Vivianite. That's right. With a little hook on that bottom crystal.
Right. It's really spectacular, really different than most, and truly aesthetic. Okay, let me see other highlights here. Well, we'll give you a general feeling for things. There's a beautiful, I mean, there's a good example of a specimen. You see the pyritized nautilus shells. So those aren't that expensive, but if you step back, you realize how unique they are, how incredibly beautiful they are. It really speaks to the dominant theme, which is again beauty. Okay, and
now,
if we
do you
down,
know that Do you know when Jack purchases something, does he have an idea of where it's going in the display case, or does he just purchase it and then find a place where it fits?
Yeah, he has. Well, it's both things, which is that he has a specific aesthetic where he thinks specimens should go, but also as time goes on, there's less and less room, so it becomes space a lot of times defines where things end up.
Mm-hmm.
But to a great extent, I mean, as you can see, there is some order. If we go down here, you'll see 4 flawless aquamarines in a row. So can you get those 4 aquamarines, Tim?
Yeah.
So obviously they're placed there for a reason. There's a nice wolfenite here that's from Wayne Thompson's find. Maybe that was a decade ago, that find at the Red Cloud.
Right. Now,
okay.
wolfenite in front of it, is that a San Francisco one?
The wolfenite in front of it, that's a good question. I'm not entirely sure, but we can almost, well, it's a little delicate. I was going to make it a test case.
Yeah, let's not take it out.
Yeah, I do have something to show you, though, in the next case. This is important. So next case is actually has some of my favorite mineral specimens, including Tim. I've opened this case up, so you'll get a little bit better view. There's an Eden Mills, Vermont garnet, really special.
Nicely placed on matrix there, or not placed, but nicely on matrix.
Yeah, and if we go down, let's see, well, we'll talk a little bit more here. What else is a highlight here? Well, these Cuprian adamites, I believe those are from Greece. And there's a Evaravite here, and where's that from? That might be from Finland, actually. I'm trying to remember. I'm sure somebody in the audience can correct me if I'm wrong. Then there's a Sumeb malachite after azurite down here, really large crystal that's quite fine.
That's great.
And then I was going to show you as an example, this is a nice English calcite. And one of the great things about Jack's collection is the way he catalogs them. He's so meticulous. So many of you know how he does this, but I'm going to walk through it for a moment. So every mineral has a number that is written on it. In this case, it's 1389. Which is a very early number, and numbers go up through the 4000s. So 1389 is the number. He's written it on the specimen. Now, if we come over here, you can want to follow me, Tim. He has a cataloging system. And conveniently, somewhat miraculously, like a card trick, I've opened it up, and there's 1389.
We're going to call you Houdini from now on.
Yeah. So in the glassine envelope, and every specimen has a number in a glassine envelope, is all the information associated with the specimen. And in this case, there's Jack's label, 1389 calcite from Cumberland, England. The original label, which quite conveniently came from Lidstrom's, famous old mineral dealer. And then in this case, there's actually another note in here that Jesse Fisher was interested in purchasing it if it ever became available for sale. So as you can see, this catalogs, they go all the way up past 4100. I'm going to put this back in. And then we go over here, he has a set of books that give further information about every single specimen. So if once again, somewhat conveniently, the book is open to the correct number. And there we are, 1389. He has a code that says how much he purchased it for, which, as he said before, this is, well, actually, this code comes out to like $600, which I think was a pretty good deal at the time. so it uses these books to give all the information about the purchase itself and any other extraneous information that wasn't fit into the glassine envelope. So that's his system, and every specimen in this collection has been cataloged that way. Everyone has a number, has a glassine envelope, is in the books. So it's a great example for the rest of us, because the value added for having a well cataloged collection is significant. I mean, the two things you need is a well cataloged collection to be famous like Jack, and then you can add another 10% to whatever the value of your collection is for both. Okay, so since we're here, we're going to visit some of the highlights of the collection. So Tim, let's turn around. And this is probably the most famous piece in Jack's collection, which is called the Searchlight. And once again,
the rhodochrosite from the Sweet Home Mine in Alma County, Colorado.
Right.
We had the Collector's Edge lads on with us a couple of weeks ago. Or was that last week? And so, yeah, that was one that Brian Lees had dug out.
Yeah, and here, Tim, bring this over here. They prepared a portfolio for the piece. It actually, Jack purchased it in 1996. And when it came, they brought this portfolio with some pictures of the mine.
It's kind of glary, so turn it this way.
This way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And there they are extracting the rhodos in a vein. This was in the Blue Moon pocket. They found this. There's Brian. I guess that's Brian in the corner. Maybe it's not. All right. And here, when the piece was delivered, which is right there, it came with a cake. It's like it was its birthday. And there's Jesse and Joan, and I believe I'm in the back there. And there's Jack. He's looking as good as ever. I can't say the same thing for myself. But moving forward, so there's two great rhodos in here. In addition to that, this is from a famous Good Luck pocket. I think originally, I'm not certain who owned that, either John Lucking or his name just slipped my mind. The gentleman who partners with Bill Larson when they do displays in the Tucson show, just slipped my mind.
Alain Marcad?
No.
Gene Myron.
Gene Myron, right? Yeah, I'm failing at much faster rate than Jack, so everyone has to bear with me.
Hello, Alzheimer's.
Yeah, exactly. And there's another great rhodo here, though the other two are probably more primary. Okay, so
yeah, that's nothing to sneeze at. I mean, that's an incredible piece right there.
It is. It really is.
I mean, it almost becomes overwhelming because you have a fabulous piece there, but there's so many great pieces in that particular shelf that a great piece like that would be great on its own gets a little bit lost next to those other ones.
Yeah, assuming we just have an hour, it's hard to we'll try to go through the highlights, but there's so many good things here. He has a couple of great Tanzanite and smoky quartz from the famous what is it?
The Smoky Hawk claim in Colorado.
No, not Smoky Hawk. No, Brian's. That's not Smoky Hawk. This is the pocket. God, I'm really slipping. Tree root pocket. There we go. There's still hope for me. Probably the best tree root. There's a great tree root pocket down here also. If you can get that on the bottom, the Tanzanite specimen there. Sweet. There's a nice hemorphite specimen in the back there also. You can see.
The color on that Tanzanite is just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, the tree root is still my favorite pocket. And then if we come up here, Tim, this is one of the most famous pieces in his pocket, the lidocotite butterfly, his pocket in his collection. This is the lidocotite butterfly. And it has a story. Can you go back to Jack and let him tell the lidocotite story?
Sure, let's give that a try. Raquel, Eloise, can we go back? There we go. Gene, can you ask Jack if he could tell us the story
Can you
behind the
tell the story
Lidicotite
of
butterfly
how
wing?
you acquired the butterfly, how you envisioned it?
Yes,
Can you
I was at a mineral show. I can't recall just which mineral show it was, but a fellow who was selling minerals came up to me and he had one of these crystals in his hand. It's about so big, 5 or 6 inches high. And I thought it was beautiful. And I saw he had a second one. And so I realized this right away that the two of them could be displayed in the form of a butterfly, which was something beautiful. And beauty is what lights my life, what I wanted to express in every specimen of the mineral collection. And so instead of acquiring just one of these, I acquired the pair so they could be displayed as like a butterfly.
Absolutely fantastic, and they're so beautiful. They really are. Let's
Okay.
get back to Paul, and yeah, there we go. Look at
Okay. Yeah, there's the picture of that. And that was an early acquisition, spectacular piece. And if you go up here, in celebration of black minerals, it's a spectacular agerine specimen. And he has multiple specimens from the Green Monster mine, including one back there, the Epidote and Quartz twins. And then I think if we go down here, there should be others. Yeah, there's one right there. Okay.
One.
Yeah. It's next to a great Chinese scheelite that was also in Steve Smale's collection, one of those ones that are super bright orange that really jump at you.
Yeah.
There's a great twin calcite up here, Tim, this brown calcite. And then let's keep going. There's Jack's, if you look here, this is Jack's blue cap, which is a lovely blue cap. And one thing about Jack's cases, this one case is backlit. So he puts specimens here that really benefit from backlighting. Like if we move over here, there's an alienized fluorite from Namibia, and that's a particularly good one. And you can see it's great qualities because it's backlit. And then there's the impossible specimen that will never move, which is the mesolite on mesolite, starburst on top of a tinier group of needles. I don't know how he got that home, but I'm never touching it. And then we go.
I'm afraid to even look at it.
Another one. Hold on one second. I should have prepared this. Well, it's usually here, but I don't see it. Come this way, Tim. So this is another famous piece in his collection. Come all the way over here to get this. This is his Tanzanite, which was the cover of the mineralogical record on Tanzanite.
That was the cover of the Marilani issue. It's a fantastic issue and just a killer piece. I mean, I recognize it immediately. I didn't know Jack owned it. I'm glad to know that.
Yeah, it was cover of the MR. Right now, I've got it on the cover of Rock and Gem, but the MR is usually here. Let me take a quick look and see.
Paul, can we put the name of the museum behind the label on that Tanzanite, please?
The name of the museum? Oh,
No.
you guys. Oh yeah, not a problem, Raquel.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, we'll just trade for the Ram's Horn Gold, and that'll be fine.
Do that to me.
Yeah, we got a deal. All right. Anyway,
you heard that live right here on Minerals Talks Live.
That's right. Okay, so I'm tempted to take the Tanzanite out. It's not heat treated, so you can see all three colors, but I
do
guess
it. It's sturdy enough.
Okay, all right. All right, so Jack, if anything happens, it's Brian's fault. So, the amazing thing is, and this is, the real reason that Jack and I are such great friends is we share a similar view of the world. Like, I think of the world as a handball wall. Whatever you give, it gives back to you. So Jack and to a great extent myself, we're very trusting in the world. And I think as a consequence, less bad things seem to happen. Like people are always nervous they're showing all these specimens, but nothing actually has ever happened. I just think there's something to the fact that what you put in, you get back. And Jack is so generous with his collection. Here's the spectacular Tanzanite. Let's see if I can get the red. I'm nervous about doing this. I'm not seeing the red, but you can see the blue and the purple. We'll leave it the blue and purple for now. There's the blue, there's the purple. Go home. There we go. So that was
Thank you,
covered
Paul. It's amazing.
Okay. All right.
And I've got a somewhat pixelated view on my camera right now of the mineralogical record with that
great.
tanzanite on the cover of it right there.
Thank you. You know, you're a great host. You know, you should think about like doing a talk show.
This is my talk show. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, you could handle a larger audience, I think, Brian. So,
hey, Paul, let me ask you about earthquakes. San Francisco is or California for that matter, is somewhat famous for all the earthquakes there. How are the specimens there protected? What has happened in some of the earthquakes in the past? Share with us.
Well, the worst case was I guess it was the 1987 earthquake here. And when that happened, I mean, actually, this is a good story. Jack was too scared to come down to the room to see what had happened. And his good friend and our good friend, Steve Smale, called him up, and he came to San Francisco to help Jack deal with whatever the emotional trauma was going to be about seeing what happened to his collection after the earthquake. So he came, and the good news was very few specimens were damaged in the earthquake. In terms of going forward, he does have earthquake wax, but the truth is that many of these specimens are loose and are significantly at risk. Jack's collection, though, is insured. So really, on many levels, that's the best you can do at this point. His collection's fully insured, and other than keeping it in boxes and in a sauna, that's probably the most you can do.
Sure.
So, shall we keep going? Do you want to
Absolutely. Of course.
Okay. All right.
One question, Paul. I mean, there are so many incredible pieces there, and the way it's displayed is incredible. We know that he started his real collecting back when he was 51, the age I am right now, with the Kongsberg Silver. When did he really kind of start hitting his real stride with collecting? When was the prime time for his acquisitions?
Well, one thing about Jack is that he trusts his instincts. So one of the reasons he was able to accumulate so many great specimens was if he saw something he loved, like a new find, he didn't hesitate and he purchased it. So he got a lot of great pieces by reacting quickly. I think that mostly started about 30 years ago. And in this context, we have to give a ton of credit to his wife, Leslie, because Leslie was way ahead of her time. I think even as early as in the 40s, she had told Jack whatever extra money they had, she would buy blue chip stocks. So if you can imagine this, not only the foresight to be in the stock market, but I think at that time, the idea of women being involved in finances wasn't as prevalent as it is today, or it was completely different to be. So she and Jack had worked for a printing company and had a relatively middle-class life, but fortunate for him, his wife Leslie took their extra money and bought AT&T, bought IBM. So by the time he got older, all of a sudden he had a significant amount of money because of those investments, and that's what funded his purchasing. At a certain point, he went maybe starting 25, 30 years ago. He sort of went all in and started really buying great mineral specimens. I know I guess I should say at this point, I know there's been a lot of rumors about his collection. We've had to sell some things to support the great situation he's in, where he's living in this wonderful assisted living facility, the Redwoods, and they take great care of him. But it's not inexpensive, so we've had to sell some pieces. But for the most part, we've been able just to cull from the bottom and the mid-level and maintain the integrity of the collection, which I think you're seeing.
Wonderful. And acknowledgments also to Leslie for being the one with the foresight to purchase that house.
That's true also. She bought the house for cash in, I don't know what, Jack would know what year it was. I don't remember, but yeah, she bought it for cash. So he had, you know, that was a big expense that was taken care of. So he made a lot of good choices. And unfortunately, Leslie has passed away, but every time he talks about the collection, you know, it starts him to sob when he thinks about Leslie and what she has meant to him. So that's an important part of this story.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. We'll keep going, I guess. Okay. He's gotten, over the years, I've given him things. Our friendship, as I've said, is, you know, very special for both of us. And I have different mining claims. So here's a good Jackson's Crossroad amethyst that I gave to him, and which we found in our early days. And then the first mechanized dig, where's that piece that I ever did, was in Lake George, Colorado, for Tanzanite and smoky quartz. And I'm looking for that specimen. I've been moved. It's usually over here. Oh, here it is. Tim, you see that? This is somewhat of a modest specimen. It's Tanzanite, smoky quartz, and clevelandite. But that was the first major pocket we hit, and we named it Jack's Pocket.
Oh,
So that specimen,
nice.
that specimen's from Jack's Pocket out of Lake George. Okay. Let's see. Yes, I guess it's hard to know where to jump in sometimes. But to show you, you know, even up to, you know, right now, the unfortunate thing, though, he's dealing with it better than almost anybody. I mean, he's in this assisted living circumstance and he's not allowed to leave the facility. So it kind of breaks his heart. They can't come visit his mineral collection or go anywhere, but he's handling it terrifically. He's reading and writing all the time. You know, so if anything, Jack is, as you saw, I think early on, he's sharper than he was 10 or 20 years ago, because reading and writing is like exercising your brain, and that's what he's doing to survive this period. But even right before, he went into the assisted living because he injured his hip and had a hip operation, and that was like 3 years ago. But 3 years ago, when he was 97, he was still buying mineral specimens and he was still showing his good taste. So Tim, if you come over here, I think this was the last specimen he purchased, which he purchased from Rob. It's a wonderful Galena. It looks like a Borg ship or something right here.
Oh, that's great.
And so that was the last piece I believe he purchased. And, you know, it's a tasteful, aesthetic specimen. Can Jack and I talk?
Sure, yeah, he can hear you.
Okay, well, can we both be on at the same time, or can that work?
Sure.
Yeah, let's see if we can communicate. What I need to do.
Well, you can look because it'll be
Stand in front of
louder.
the camera and you can talk to Jack.
Jack, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear? Yes, we can hear you. There's Paul.
How you like seeing your collection again?
I'm uplifted by seeing the collection. The idea that something that was meaningful to me, one guy, can be of interest to a multitude of people in the world. That's an inspirational thought to me.
It's great. Am I doing a good enough job narrating your collection, Jack?
Boy, Paul, I'd be lost without you. You all
think I'd
not
be
only
lost
like my
without you,
right
too.
hand, but my right hand and my left hand and my brain too.
So is there anything you would like me to highlight about your collection, Jack?
Yes, I have one thought to communicate.
Yeah.
That if you have a mind anything similar slant to mine, don't have your mineral specimens packed away in a box under the bed or else in a bank vault. Have them where you could see them and where other people who come to your home can see them and enjoy this aspect of nature's miracle.
Great. Great.
Jack, I know that you're a lover of poetry and you often write poems. And I know that you've written one called Song of the Solo Dancer, and I was hoping you could read it for all of us.
When one survives 100 years, he well may wonder through his tears why he attained that lofty number, while friends found peace in death's deep slumber. 'Tis not a goal I plan to reach, he murmurs, strolling at the beach, where sands beneath him give no answer. Perhaps I am that solo dancer.
That's lovely, Jack. Jack, thank you so much for being on the show today. I love you. I miss you. I wish I could be there with you and just enjoy the day sitting by your side.
I want you to know that what you did in making this film and interviewing me is an uplift for me, not only for me and my body, but for my spirit as well. Thank you.
Jack, it was absolutely my honor and my pleasure. I miss you so much. I really wish I could be with you right now. Paul, again, thanks to you and thanks to Gene and thanks to Tim, thanks to Lisa. Thanks for everybody for making this show happen. For our viewers, we want to thank all of you for joining us on this very special show with Jack Halpern. Tomorrow, we're going to be releasing our show that we did with Salim Ede from the MIM Museum. This was originally aired back on August 26th. And join us again next week. We will be meeting with Catherine Dunnell from the Royal Ontario Museum up in Canada, and she will be our guest for that show. So from all of us at Mineral Talks Live, thank you for joining us. Jack, big hug to you. Aloha. Thank you very much.
Brian, we need to fly so often.
I know Jack does that.
Thank you for that.
Terrific. Hey, that was wonderful. Really enjoyed doing that show. And thanks to all the viewers. And again, thanks to everyone participating in the show. This really meant a lot to me. This was a show that I was really hoping that we were able to do. And I think we pulled it off. And I'm glad that we're able to give something back to Jack, who is just a wonderful man. Hopefully, if anyone gets a chance to ever see him at a show once this coronavirus is over, go up to him, greet him, give him a hug. Just such a wonderful man and such a asset to the mineral collecting community. So perfect.
Thanks, Brian. Thank you for everything.